as much it is Microsoft concern, there is a huge stake from ISVs also, and they play a very key role in deciding when things kind of become available as full-fledged.
Yes.
I haven't tested the basic authentication, but somebody pinged me somewhere on Twitter or something and said, "Oh, the basic authentication is still working," which I'm not sure about. But that was the other major platform change that was coming in 2022 release wave one.
In SaaS or on
In
the
SaaS, only SaaS. On-prem will support basic authentication, but SaaS was supposed to uh, eliminate the basic authentication and switch to OAuth only. And maybe we'll learn about it as time goes by. On the initial release, I haven't tested it, but maybe I'll play with it during this weekend or tomorrow. Okay,
great.
so
Let's
we
start.
are at time. Let's start. This is our 77th PC Open discussion. And today we'll continue what we were discussing last week about what's new in 2022 release wave 1, which is the April release. Where do you register? You go to this link. Normally on Sunday or later. This gets updated every Sunday. And there's a registration link where you can go and register for the next meeting. If you're here, don't want to register every week, then drop your name and mail in chat, and I'll make you default attendee. Okay, so what's new? It was not an April Fool joke, but Microsoft did release BC20 on April 1st, somewhere around afternoonish India time. I was doing a not Git, Azure DevOps pipeline, and the way I've configured it is it takes the latest version all the time for one of my app which I'm working on, and it picked 20, and that's what I knew that BC20 was released. The announcement came later in the day, which was majorly around North India daytime, that BC20 is available. You can go ahead, download it if you have customers on prem. If you do any sales, new sale on SaaS starting yesterday, all those customers will go to BC20 directly. As we were discussing a while ago, there is a 60-day extended time frame window to where partners can delay their customers upgrade in SaaS, and after 60 days Microsoft will force the upgrade on each and every tenant. So you get 60 days to fix any issues in your extension if they exist for your customers. Otherwise your custom extension get uninstalled. The data remains behind the scene, but it's uninstalled so that it doesn't stop the upgrade. So keep that in mind. Next 60 days are crucial who have customers on SaaS. As we were talking about, the major change is the SMTP engine has been completely removed, the old one. And the enhanced email module, which was available from version 17, Business Central 17, is now the only option of emailing in Business Central. It still uses SMTP if you have to, but inside the new emailing module. So as Microsoft is doing this for a while, they also announced that they will be doing a launch event on 20th April 2022. The keynote is a live event, and rest are kind of pre-recorded session which will be available. They haven't decided the timeline, but they normally remain available for next, I guess, 3 to 4 months. And these are on-demand sessions, which talks about every or more or less everything that has been changed in Business Central. Uh, the things that I'm looking for is the Shopify integration, because there are already so many built-in or custom Shopify integration available on SaaS. So how that plays in. Uh, Extended email, we have talked about it in past when it was released. I don't see there are many major changes. Data synchronization using Dataverse has been improved, and that's something that I would suggest every nav/BC developer should start paying attention to a Dataverse, Power Apps, the whole Power Platform, because that is becoming more and more significant with respect to Business Central day by day. Teams integration, SharePoint integrations, Those are the things that will replace the traditional kind of coding that we used to do for managing files and things like that. Even uh, workflows in Business Central can be done from Power Apps. Uh, Microsoft is continuously working on files related with OneDrive and Outlook. It'll be great to see how Microsoft is placing OneDrive in picture rather than SharePoint for file storage. Excel layout, we'll surely talk about it in future meetings. Do it yourself CI/CD. We have seen it in the preview using GitHub, and that's a cool one if you haven't used a CI/CD pipeline in your organization. And before you commit any money towards spending on Azure DevOps, you can play with a free GitHub account, and the CI/CD pipelines are available there for testing. And that's it, I guess. New in cloud migration. Let's see. I think there will be announcements about how Microsoft is working toward making sure that GP and other products, which kind of get merged into BC, have their migration path written, because Business Central migration path is more or less stable now. Okay, so you can go to my blog. There is a link. I forgot to put in here. It's BCA launch. The first article talks about this, and you can register for this session. And then once you have registered, you can watch these sessions based on your availability, other than the keynote, which will be a live event on that day, on 20th April. Okay, so let's go into what we were continuing. And this is something that when Business Central 17 was launched, one of our GP MVP, the lady, posted this on Twitter that, oh, GP had this functionality. Why don't Business Central didn't have this functionality to select multiple document and then do a batch release more or less, or reopen. And I was going into the history of Twitter and found out that I, being a nav developer, suggested that why you expect Microsoft to do everything. That's a very simple code that you can write and you can do a batch processing. But the MVP thought that it's a great idea, and she submitted it into the ideas portal of Microsoft. And here it is. Microsoft had built in the base product that you can select multiple document now and release them or reopen them in a batch, and it works in the same way as our batch invoice posting does. It tries to release all the document that it can, and if it cannot, it shows you at the end that these many documents were successfully released and these are still open. So let me open the product and see. So this is BC20, and let's go into the sales orders. And here they also have notified it with an color codification of what these are, what the different statuses are, and only the two colors are for open and release. But there is an event available in the code, which you can utilize if you want to have conditional formatting on these status. So you can select multiple document, the actions remain same. When you do a release, it'll identify that you have selected more than one document, and then will let you continue. So once you do that, it shows you, and once all those documents which are selected will change to release, and vice versa. I'm pretty sure they would have done it on the reopen also. Yes. From the technical perspective, the code remains same as it was in the batch posting. When you do a sales invoice batch post, it is written on the similar way. The other piece of it is this style formatting on the status field. It works in the similar way as it does in the customer ledger entry, where it fetches it based on a function which is written on customer ledger entry table. The good part is that there is an event which you can subscribe to and define your conditional formatting of this field if needed. Okay. I don't think there are any questions, but if there are, I'll be happy to talk about
Yeah,
it.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
What would happen if I try to release a document among the selection and there's a problem in it? Does it
Just
have?
that will not be released. Others will be released.
Okay, okay, good.
In the same way as you have seen those batch invoice posting on the invoice screen. There is a batch post, right, where you select certain invoice is date range, or based on different filters you select a set of invoices, and you call the posting routine, and it tries to post them, and anything that cannot post it leaves them, but others it does post. So the code is on the similar lines, so you don't have to worry if one has a problem and it cannot be released. It'll just give you an error at the end that out of, let's say, 5 selected, one has been released and others are still open.
Okay. Well, would I be able to cache the error message programmatically?
I doubt it. Let me open VS Code and see if I have it connected somehow. Nice. Okay, this seems 20. Okay, let's go into the K9 sales order list. Okay, let me make it big, and let's go into release. Okay, manual release. This is base app 20. Okay, set selection filter and then perform manual release. Go to definition. Okay, I take an 8 to 36. Okay, consider for manual release. So it does call this based on whatever your count is, and then it calls the batch processing management to batch process sales manual release. So there is actually a separate code unit to this, and then they have passed this error handling option to show you the errors. So it will end up with an error screen to show you what error happened on documents which it cannot release. And then there are for sure other options available for this, which you can utilize to have different kind of error handling. Like you don't want to show an error message, that's okay. If you want to show error message, then based on this, there will be an error window pop up which talks about what errors were generated out of it. And this is the new code unit seems, which does the release of multiple documents. No, that's again calls the same code unit to perform manual release. I don't understand why they did this. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but Sam, to answer your question, you will get an error screen at the end to show you what errors were generated.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, I should have written, yeah. If there are errors, they are shown on the error message page. So yeah, there is an error message page which will be shown. Okay, the next one is, this was available in NAV if I'm not wrong, and they brought this capability back where you can now again save your report outputs into XML. And I remember using it in past because I hated XML port for certain reasons. And the requirement that customer had was kind of matching to a design of a report which I've already built in. So this option kind of comes handy at that point where you have to uh, generate an XML document out of a report. So let's see. If you are on sales order, let's say, let's see, there will be a report somewhere. Here it is. And then here on the send to, you now see an XML option, which let you download the data set of the report with the data into an XML document. So it'll download a file based on whatever nomenclature that you have used in your data set. All those fields will appear as it is. So like I have used the data item, the standard Microsoft has used the data item name as header, and then these are the columns, and then they have their values in an XML format. That all data will be available based on the XML format that they need. For each line, there will be a separate section, and that was available back in NAV, I'm pretty sure. For some reason, they removed it earlier, but they brought that back again, where you can now also go back and save your data in the report in XML format. For the next one, I haven't done much on this other than using the event of substitute report. I haven't played much on the reporting events, but there were some keywords which I liked. One of them was business event. And if you go back in history and understand what was the difference between a business event and an integration event, theoretically from Microsoft, the event looked like same, but business event comes up with a formal guarantee from Microsoft that these event will not change in future. So I don't know, maybe this is the first business event that Microsoft have published, but that kind of guarantees you that this will not change in future if it is defined as a business event. Now, there were some limitations. I know I haven't faced them yet on the projects that I'm working on, but now you can react when, let's say, you chose to save as PDF and the file has been generated from the request page, or if it is ready to download, you can act on those situations also in a report if required. And that all was done using code unit 844, where there were two new events added and one event which was replacing the old event which I have used in the past called on merge document report. Now I'll have to test it out how you actually use it, but surely look at code unit 44 if you are working on reports. There are quite a few events available on code unit 44 which allows you to handle situations uh, in the code while running report, and it's called report management. So if you have printer issues or printer selection where you want to do something like this, was a typical code in code unit 1 in NAV, where there's a printer selection code. If you have to do something, you actually come here. There are events available here. In the same way, this is a situation where a default printer for current user has been set on the printer selection page. And if you have to trigger something there, you always again come to this report management code unit. I've only used one here, so I'll not talk much about it, but there is there a custom layout attached to report, and is that being executed? That all can be taken care from here. All the printer things and custom report, document merge that's happening, that all is defined in this one single code unit. Get customs RDLC if there is a custom RDLC layout, there is a custom world layout, built-in layout, substituted. This is one of the common thing that I've used all the time. You subscribe to this event if you are creating a copy of a report in your custom range and you don't want to change throughout the system, that this instead of the, let's say instead of report 204 run 50,204. If you don't want to change it everywhere, then you subscribe to this event called on after substitute report, and then you just need to give it the report ID that is from Microsoft. In this case, let's say 204, and the new report ID and the record ref for sure. And anytime a user runs an action where the report is supposed to run as 204, based on your subscriber, it replaces it with the new report ID. So you don't actually have to go to each page or each area in the menu where that report is placed. You actually can use the substitute report. And this is something that I use a lot when we have to kind of create a customized copy of a report, and the report extension is not a solution in those situations. That's where this comes super handy. So if you don't know about it, play with it. This is super cool. Any thoughts on this one before we move ahead? Okay. So,
Sort of not related to that, but
yeah.
if I have noticed correctly, the function which you were searching in the table 36, that were having a type internal. Is that a new type of function procedure? I have seen those.
Yes, I guess that I'm a little bit confused about the types, but let's see. What was that? Let's search for word internal. Internal procedure. Is it the replacement of local? I don't
No,
know.
local are I think is still
Local.
there.
Okay, that's good to know. As in, what is the internal procedure? I thought, there are some different types also that you can define. This is new. I haven't- Internal attribute. It's an access property. So this is what's available on Microsoft. Set the object accessibility level which control whether the object can be used from other code in your module or other module. Okay.
That's actually for a field, not for a procedure. Yeah, this is for a field. This applies to a field.
Applies to code unit, query, table field, enum, interface, permission set.
But
And
not
maybe
a
this. Yeah, but let's see what this is. Internal, that object can be accessed only by the code in same module, but not from other module. So does that mean that if I create an extension, I cannot call the method which is tagged as internal? Let's see. Let's in this. This is table 36. Let's try to call this on my cast page. Okay. Record, save error. And let's add a procedure to see can I do that or not. Okay. Variable is my int. Okay, so my int dot, and we write it as here comment. Perform. No, I cannot. That's what it is, it seems. But you cannot call it outside the same app. So I cannot call this method from an extension other than the base app. This is an internal method, which means that it can only be accessed from the code which is written in the same extension where that event lies. Oh, sorry, where that procedure lies. We know local, okay. We know protected. Do we know protected, or do we need to talk about it?
Yes,
If
we can.
yeah, you can use it outside. That's what the protected is, which is kind of seems opposite of what it is trying to say. But if there is a variable or if there is a method which is tagged as protected, that exposes it to the other extensions if required.
Okay.
Now, so if you create a table extension, it normally happens on a page, right, where you cannot access variables. So when you look at certain pages, you will see that the variables in that page are clubbed into this protected range, and that protected range exposes those when you create a page extension of it. And we requested it on the item tracking page because we had to do a custom, and Microsoft did add them on the item tracking page, if I remember it correctly.
You can find more examples on. So you can find more examples of protected on the sales order subform page.
Right.
Or
So yeah.
sales order subform page. Yeah.
And this only applicable for things that are not by default accessible. But if on a situation where you have to kind of use them in a subscriber object, then you have to request it to Microsoft to kind of place those variables into this separate tag. So all these are variables, but if you create a page extension for the sales order subform, as Avinav said, you can't access these. But if required, you can actually access these because all these are tagged in the protected range. So when you create a page extension, any variable or a method, I'm hoping now methods or procedures, if they are tagged protected, then you can actually call them from the extension object that you're creating. So that's about protected. Public we know, local we know, but the only thing that's new in the procedure is internal, which is a little bit tricky. Why Microsoft will tag a procedure as internal as a
So there are certain processes where related to O365 Office add-in. That is where they do this.
yeah, but this one doesn't make any sense, sir. As in, it's just performing the release, right? Or reopen just down there. If they tag it as internal, that kind of limits someone else who is creating, let's say, a separate page on sales header table and then would like to utilize this method. They might have to copy it. That's what it is.
You can always copy it. Maybe something related to webhook or something related to integration. That's why they want to protect it. Or maybe they haven't tested enough.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Or maybe somebody requested, they remove the tag of internal. Good catch, Vijay. I didn't know that this would be done. As Sam said, I didn't know that they were applicable to procedure. But it seems now that they are also applicable to procedure.
So will it work for extension as well? You
That's
can
not
define
working.
something as internal.
Yeah, you can. That's the whole idea that in your extension, if I'm creating this procedure, I can actually go ahead and define this as internal procedure. That limits any other extension in this environment to use the method that I'm creating. And then you can also tag it as non-debuggable. If you have any secret code in there, you can tag this as non-debuggable. When even if some other extension has a dependency on your extension, and there is some secret source of your code that is inside this procedure, you can mark that procedure as non-debuggable. So even if he debugs it, the cursor will show him no code. So it kind of protects your code and it doesn't show you. And you would have seen it when you debug Microsoft code. There are certain sections of Microsoft code where they mark it as non-debuggable. So there are ways to protect your IP per se if you're creating one in Business Central. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's see what's there next. This is something super cool. I don't know how they build in. I haven't got into the kind of the code of it, but I'll be super interested of how they are doing it because it works super fast in Business Central the way I have tested it in Cronus. I should not say it. I should say I'll wait to test it on a customer environment. But they have done a kind of a control F more or less to find your references to your customers, to your vendors, to your item. Like you have seen on the GL account, there is a values functionality on your GL account where you can see where my GL account has been used, in which posting setups and things like that. You can access this anywhere in the application, but just by doing Control Alt Q. And then you can either find a document in it based on external document number or the posted number or the unposted number per se, or you can find the business contact, which is customer, vendor, and contacts from this. And you can also use item references based on serial number and lot number. You can find wherever they are used. The way I'm hoping, I haven't tested it for item because I didn't had lot enabled data. but I'm hoping it will work in the similar way like the lot tracking. Is that the feature that was there in Nav, where it tracks the lot from beginning to end? Maybe they are using it on the similar lines. The shortcut for this is Control Alt Q. It is available in most of the role center pages, I'm hoping, not on mine, but I can do the shortcut, which is Control Alt Q, or I can actually search for find entries if needed. This is the page which is already added. Once you are in here, you can search for documents. You can search for business contact. Then you select what type of contact you are looking for. You can filter out whatever you want, then do a find, checks throughout the system, tells you that this vendor has been used in 51 posted purchase invoices. It's available on 450 GL entries, tax entries, vendor ledger entries, and all. This is surely cool to look from behind how they have done it programmatically, because that's super interesting, because there had been certain requirements from customer to have something like this baked in for their custom functionalities. And Sandeep said, yeah, go ahead.
What is the difference from the earlier functionality?
Which earlier one?
The normal find entries which was there earlier. What is the difference exact?
Let's see that. Let me
But
find my.
these options were already there, right?
On which version?
Old, any 18, 19?
Huh? Okay, let me see. Let me go into my 19 if I can. And it's playing something else on my 19. So it's stuck here. Let me go take it back. I'm on.
In earlier version, I think it only search based on document number.
Oh,
Default.
no, it was there.
Okay, let's
The only
have a
thing
look.
is it is now available on top. Earlier it used to be in more options.
So it's only letting
Go
me
to more
able to.
options. Go to more
Okay.
options. More options in below here on the right side. Yeah. Action.
Find.
Toolbar.
Oh, they had it behind
What
the
is the
scenes.
difference?
No difference. They just put it in the front end. I never noticed that they had it behind the scene. I
This was
actually never
this
clicked
is
on
from
that.
2016, I believe.
Hmm.
2016 or 2009, their item references were there.
We never clicked on more options.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I never clicked on the more options.
I
Yeah,
know
same
because
thing.
we try to find item references, item serial number and lot numbers. We use it for this functionality.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know. As Bijay said, I never saw that button that there is more options there, because I always look for more options on the top.
It was even in the classic version 2009. The find this by contact number.
Yeah, as in the classic, I know that it was there, but I know I don't remember when, but I'm pretty sure I saw that it kind of lost somewhere. I don't know when, but then I saw it in the release and I was like, okay, it's back. That's good.
The only thing they have done is from the
Place it in the front.
in the front. That's all.
No more options. Okay, that is good to know. That yeah, if you have customers on the previous versions also, you can always use it, as Sandeep said, by going into the more options and then choosing the find by. And maybe I'm pretty sure you can extend this page and make these prompted, and that way they will not be able.
Saurabh, is it mentioned in the new release features?
Yes, it is there. Find documents easily, or something like that. This is the title of the finding document and entries efficiently.
That's so it's sufficiently. No? You don't have to click on 2 more extra buttons. That's all.
That is the efficient way of finding things. Okay, that's good to know, Sandeep sir. Thanks. But just out of curiosity, how this one works is, does it work for item I'm talking about, like the item
Serial
tracing
numbers.
that was there?
Yes, item tracking. So you
No,
put a serial number there in the
no.
search,
So,
and it will find any document with that serial number.
oh, just that serial number. Okay, because in the standard nav, I know that there was an item tracing functionality. Trace by lot, trace by things, and then it used to walk you through how that lot moved, how it came in from either from production or from purchase, and then where it was sold, was it returned sometime, and then All
That
those
is still
things were
there.
there.
That is
Yeah,
still
that's
there.
still there. But does this use a similar thing, or it just
No, no,
used
no. It's
where that
purely
number is
navigation.
used?
Purely
Oh,
navigate.
just the
Simple.
navigation.
So if you enter a
So,
serial number here, it will just show you which all documents have those item ledger entry will come.
so like I haven't seen it behind the scenes, but what it is trying to do, as in when I do a contact number 20,000, is there a
So
hard coding of where it need to look for 20,000?
yeah, it's because you have given the option of filter customer, so it will filter the customer and then the tables are mentioned.
So will it pick the
So it's
custom
just like
tables?
find
No.
entries. It's like just like find normal find entries. The only thing it works with the filters.
Yeah, that's true. But if I have a custom table where I am using a
No,
customer number field,
no,
no,
you
right?
have to add
Okay.
that code. You have to extend that code.
Okay. So I'll do a little bit check on it behind the scene.
I've
What's
done it in even in 9 and 16. What for each of your custom table, you have to add that code in the navigate function. Now it's in this
oh,
for
right.
entries.
Okay.
Same way.
Sounds good. Okay. Next up is for partners who have customers on SaaS, because this is majorly a problem in SaaS, not on on-prem. When we write certain segments of our code, there might not be a performance optimized key that's required to perform the operation that I'm doing. I might be doing 5 set ranges, or I might be doing set filters on certain things, or I might be doing a calci field, and there might not be a right set of key that's needed or index that's needed on SQL Server. Now, on-prem, there are more and more flexibility when you talk about what you can do and what you cannot do in terms of going into SQL Server. That's kind of a limitation on SaaS. So in this version, what they have done is they have built a virtual table behind the scene, which kind of stores these data when the code is running and shows you what kind of indexes are missing for which table, out of which extension that is part of it. Is it base Microsoft extension, or is it a third party extension that you are trying to extend? What kind of columns that your code is looking for in your index? And now people who don't know about the include column functionality, the SQL has a limitation that it can support a max of 16, if I'm not wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, 16 fields in a key, and then anything more than 16 goes into something called as include. So let me open my SQL Server if I have it handy. So it gives you insights till that level, that what kind of columns it is looking for, and I'm pretty sure if it goes beyond in the number that SQL can support, then it puts those columns into the include columns, which are considered as the key. But because that's a SQL limitation, that the key or the index can support max these many fields, any more fields that you try to add in your what is the rule, Vijay or Sandeep sir, about how many fields I can have in a key? 20, right? In nav.
20. Yeah. Yeah. 20.
So so yeah, if you actually create a 20 field key in nav, and if you go back in SQL and see, all those fields will not be part of that index. The only for 16 field will be part of that table index, and rest go into the what we call as include column. So let's pick any table, because I'm pretty sure Microsoft does not have an index like that. But when you pop up an index, if it pops up, uh, you see a separate tab here called include column. These are kind of part of this is the primary key, I guess. That's why it's not. Okay, no, both of them. Let me search for some known tables. Let's say sales header. Okay. So try adding it either on NAV versions or Business Central versions, and on-prem or on Docker. You will see the difference what I'm talking about. Uh, when you add a key which have more than 16 columns in it, if I'm remembering it correctly, yeah. So the first 16 column come into the index column, and then after that 16 kind of goes into this set called include columns. And it is not because of NAV or Business Central. It's kind of a limitation of SQL that it can support an index by max of 16 fields in it. So that's what is a column here called index column, include columns. So that kind of points you there. Actually, a page added, but it's a virtual table. I don't know how we'll use it in code, but because it's a virtual table, we can also use it in code. So you just need to go and search for database missing index, and you will see a page. What is this? Anytime you see a slowness in your code and you think that it might be because Microsoft does not have a key matching to the ranges and filters that I'm doing in my code, that should get populated here. That's the whole idea of it. And that's why I'm saying it's a good idea to attend the Microsoft launch event. They'll surely show some scenarios where this can be replicated and how you can effectively use this feature for database missing index. More applicable to SaaS because you don't have access to the SQL Server. Not that on-prem because you can surely utilize the power of SQL Server to know what need to be done to increase the performance of this particular code segment. On the similar line of performance, because that seems a pretty good focus from Microsoft at this point, uh, they're also giving you insights on database weight stated stats. And that's again applicable to SaaS more or less, as in you can use it in on-prem if required, but these info were kind of need to be fetched behind the scene from SQL Server. The SaaS have only limited, the SaaS is the only environment where you have a limitation of no access to SaaS. That's where these DMV queries kind of come into picture, which again, this is based on a virtual table. So you can also use it on your code if required. The cool part is that there is a database start time, the last parameter in that page or in that table also. It talks about all the parameters that you're seeing on your screen. Those values are fetched after the database start time, which on-prem means when you restarted your service, or on SaaS means whenever you restarted your environment. Starting Business Central 18, you can actually restart your Business Central SaaS environment from the admin center. So the database start time will show you when was the last time when your service tier more or less was restarted, and all these different parameters will show you value taking consideration of the database start time in picture. So when you do a search for database, there was already a database log that was available in the past. Now there is a missing index, which we saw, and then there's a weight stats that you can see here now. And again, it's based on a virtual table. So these are read-only tables. You can read that data anytime in your code if you think that you can utilize this somehow. But otherwise, this is available based on the last time I restarted my environment is 8:37 p.m. today for some reasons. So after that, wherever the things are happening, it's kind of recording those and showing you this. Does it emit telemetry on this? Oh, you can enable this. I haven't used much of telemetry, but those who know it, they can also emit this data into telemetry if required. Partners from India, do you see these kind of problems? I don't know. I haven't worked on India localization for a while. Now in Business Central SaaS, I never. Are there any performance issues with respect to SaaS?
Not encountered as of now.
Not much data as of now in SaaS. more or less.
Maybe.
Yeah, because there is always this cap of 80 GB, as it you can surely purchase additional GBs, but then its cost surely goes up. So that surely is a concern from most of the customer community also, that what is the what should be the best price situation to buy additional space on SaaS? Should we actually add more users rather than buying more space? So there is still that debate. I know last year Microsoft did announce that they reduced the price per GB, but I still see, at least in India, I've talked to some of the people, and people are still not happy with the pricing in terms of additional space purchase. I don't know what's it in India.
It's the same. It's the same.
Oh,
No
the pricing
difference.
is the same, right?
Yeah, they put it now on par with the US prices, dollar base.
No, dollar-based pricing is great. Okay, so this is something that the next one that I found out maybe by mistake, but I was actually looking for this for a very long time. This was done back in NAV 2018, if I'm not wrong, or Business Central versions 13 or 14. Somehow Microsoft got this idea that they should make the description field uh, as a field that a user can look up, like in customer name, you can look up, and it can create as you type. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I come on Business Central and I'm on sales order, and if I try to create a new sales order, and this may be for a business who remember their customers and things like that. But let's say I look for a user customer called Saurabh and I press enter. Ah, this breaks. Great. Did I set it up for breakage? I don't know.
This functionality, does it work?
Yeah, it does work. It pops up a window and says, I don't find one. Do you want to create a new? Remember that? It happens on the line for sure. So if you do something like this, it pops up this. The customer is not registered. Do you want to create a new customer with the name Saurabh Dhyani, or do you want to use an existing customer out of it? Now, this sounds super cool, maybe for a business who have very fast moving customers and they might want to create their customers based on phone numbers. And it's easier to kind of ask for the phone number and start typing it in. And then it creates a customer, or if it exists, it fetches that customer. That might be great for a fast moving business where customers are created on fly and then removed on fly. But for most of the businesses this was a problem, because they start typing and then they miss some part of it, and then it pops up this window and says, do you want to create a new one? And we have heard so many problems with this from customers, and we always in the NAV version we have the way to kind of go into the code, change the kind of table relation property on these name fields or on the description fields. But in Business Central, it's limited. We can't do much. This is not announced, but I was looking for something else on sales and receivable setup, and I found out that there's a button which is called as disable search by name. So now, if your customer has this problem where they are like, oh man, we don't want this pop up every time, we want it to let us search if required. So then they can come here and they can disable the search by name. Now,
And
it'll
it will
not
do
try,
nothing. Sorry. Will it
it'll
do
do
anything?
nothing.
Yeah, it
Is
will do
it?
nothing.
I haven't tested it, I guess. But let's see. I saw it and I was super happy. I was like, oh, that's cool that they did add this.
And this field is also available on the customer card, and still it doesn't do anything.
This field is also available on customer card.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm super happy that it does work. I didn't even test it because I was creating the BC20 Docker because my preview, as in I removed my, what the heck happened to this? Because my preview was there till yesterday, and I thought let's set up the BC20 environment.
Is there on customer card and vendor card from now? And
Oh,
What it does is, say if you select a customer on a sales order,
Mm-hmm.
say you have selected a customer and then customer name is already there, then you are trying to modify that customer name. Say from Saurabh Dhyani, you are trying to modify it. So if
Mm-hmm.
you disable that, if you enable that button, the disable search by name, then it will accept that modification, saying that on the sales document for this customer 1000, the name is changed on the sales document. If it is if the setup is made as false, then what it will try is it will try to search with the new name, new name that you are given. It will try to search in the customer list page, and then it will try to give suggestions, or it will I think show the same button if you wanted to create a new customer, or if this existing, it will try to select that existing customer with the same name.
Oh man, I was super happy. I was going to talk about it tomorrow. That, oh man, this is super cool that they did this. But what does the help says about it? Let me see. I haven't read. I did read the help, and I maybe I misunderstood by reading the help on there. But let me see what it says. Okay. So they did add it on the sales setup, and they also did add it on the purchase setup, purchase and payable setup. So kind of not disable search by name. And I actually would love to have it on the lines, because the problem actually majorly that I've heard from is about the lines. Because as they start typing in the, the item number or item name, it kind of keeps on popping that, do you want to create a new item, which makes no sense at that point. Because it's, I guess it also looks for the case sensitive stuff. So I guess that the request that I have heard about this feature is to have it disable on the lines if possible. And we have dealt it with different ways, but it doesn't make any sense that why Microsoft will do this. Maybe they, yeah, they can't keep both the ways, because it's a property, it's not code. So they might have to do it like which field you want, kind of thing. Do you want this field which can search for it, or do you want a field which just looks it up? So it says, specifies that you can change the name of customer on open sales document. The change applies only to the document. Hmm.
The explanation doesn't make too much sense.
Yes, that makes no sense. That you can change the name of the customer on open sales document. The change applies only to the document. That means the master record will not change.
That never changes. So if I want a sell to customer name and if I modify something there, it will never go and update my customer.
So let's disable this. Let's test it out. If they built it in something, they would have done right. I might have to go back in code and read what they're doing with this boolean. But okay, let's see. Let's choose a customer here. 1,000, 10,000, and okay, man, come on. Okay, now let's try to change this to my name and see what happens. No, so it says, do you want to create a new customer card or select an existing? If I try to change the name, okay, and if I go back and disable that, enable that, but why Microsoft will do this? That means my customer is called something else
So
on.
if you will enable it, then it will not give that pop-up.
Yeah, then it'll allow me to change it here, which makes no sense. But so what's the benefit of this deal? Let's think about it.
It's a good feature, na? Say for example, if I'm selling to the cash customer and I can now on that cash customer can change the name to Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, and my printout will comes in a different way.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yes, that might be the only scenario. But okay, I might go back and see what's in the code, but it's available on the setup of sales as well as on the purchase. You can kind of enable it for customers as well as for vendors based on these setups. Okay, moving forward. This is default company bank account on sales and service document. Now on the bank account, based on the currency that that bank account is created on, you can set the boolean as use as default for this currency. Now what happens based on this is on your documents, and I have only tested it on sales order confirmation report, I guess. The bank account information comes from your company information setup by default, which is from here. Whenever you print the report, the bank account info are being fetched from here, which is the bank name, the bank branch number, bank account number, and this. Now, the situation that Microsoft explains on their document is that you might have multiple bank accounts per organization, and you might want to differentiate them based on currency and kind of use that. So the way the order confirmation report has been changed, that it does check not on the bank account card, but if it is set on the card, then it's kind of used in your sales and service document. So let's see on the bank account card what's there. On your bank account card, you can say that, okay, this particular bank account is where that boolean went. This is BC20. Oh, use as default for currency. Whether this is the default company account for payment in sales and service transaction. And if it is, then the bank details will fetch from here rather than from the company information. So if you have a customer who gets upgraded to BC20 tomorrow, and it says that he's getting, information from the bank rather than from the company information, you might want to come here and see, is this enabled? Because if this gets enabled, then this bank account detail, or whosoever is enabled, that bank account detail will be printed on the report also. Because this field is, I'm pretty sure, is now, if I set the savings accounts as default the currency, and then if I go ahead and create a sales order, okay, I'm pretty sure somewhere here there is also a value that's automatically populated based on this. I hate this show more. Okay, yeah. So if you see, the company bank account code is by default set based on that boolean which is selected on your bank account. And then in your report, when you read the order confirmation report that's available in the base product, I guess that's what it is. That's what it is. Report. They use which number now as a standard? Maybe this order confirmation. Yeah. So if you look at the bank account, all these info are, still the references remain same, but here's the code which kind of handles it. That if you don't find the customer bank account on the sales header document, then fetch it from the company. Otherwise, take the value from whatever is selected on the sales header, more or less. You can still change it on the sales header if required, but if you see that a different address is being printed, different account is being printed on the report, that's happening because of this code on the report, which is based on this feature, which automatically populates the company bank account code in your sales as well as on the service document in the system. There is a capability that you can also change the bank account on the posted document if you have permissions about it. And then you can also change it there. So let's quickly have a look before we call day. Because now you can go ahead and do an update document if you have permission. They have also attached this new field here to kind of update the company bank account on the posted documents if required. Does that make sense as a feature, or it kind of doesn't qualify as a feature? I don't know. I'm not that good at it.
It's a good one. Good one. It was always a customization, especially if the customer is exporting in multiple currencies, and they have a dedicated bank account for say USD and Euro.
So now they can select it on the document itself, on the sales and service document. Maybe they don't enable the setup, but now they have a placeholder on the document that they can select it.
And not only that, but in the bank account that the field is shown, that can be set per currency. So the USD bank can be selected as a default for wherever the customer currency is USD on the sales order.
Right. Okay. So that's it for the day. I think we are exactly at the time. We'll continue talking about this. There are some cool things which I'm going deep into to kind of before I talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. Let's see about that. Sam, stay for a while. We'll discuss about your issue in a while. Okay, any thoughts, any questions for next week?
Just a small update. Maybe by the end of next week, if I get time, I will update that code that we were working on. I have achieved all of them.
Great.
The code is really in a very, very bad position, so I have to standardize it before I submit. But
So you have achieved all 4 scenarios, or
all 3, not AWS.
okay, not AWS. Okay.
So
Sounds
SharePoint is done, OneDrive is done, and that Blob. Blob was super easy. Blob was super easy.
What the heck I was doing wrong on the code that I've sent you? I'll figure it out.
Nothing exactly, I believe.
Oh, okay. I didn't spend much time on it, I guess. I was also working with one of my colleague in my company, and I was chatting with him half an hour ago, and he was also able to achieve it. And I'm like, man, everybody's achieving it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I might, I might have to rethink what I was doing. That sounds good, man. Sir, that's good.
Fine. Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe in a week or two, let's meet up on that. I don't know how many people are interested, but I was super interested on things like those, to do some samples, code samples that we all can reuse, which will be available on this Git repo. But we didn't see much interactions on submitting the code, so we might do it once in a month, maybe going forward. But I would love to do that, Sandeep sir. I don't know about others, but I'll love to do that.
Yeah, let's make the repository a big repository, and then people will contribute.
Yeah, hope so.
So every contribution helps.
Yeah, every bit helps. Okay, then.
Fine.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Saurabh.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.